What's up? I feel like doing another video, you know. It's a nice night tonight. It's not burning hot here in Arizona. And some of you in the comment section, you saw Timothy Bradley's prediction. I caught it yesterday. It's a very good prediction. As I told dude in the comments, the only criticism I had towards it, it's a very good, fair prediction. The only thing I didn't really necessarily agree with is the fact of Canelo. He's going to start off super fast. We had this issue during the Errol Spence fight as well, where you guys thought Errol Spence was just going to come out guns blazing. I told you guys these dudes, they're not going to be throwing their usual, like the Porters and Spences, they're not going to be throwing their usual 700, 800, 900 type punches. It was nowhere going to be that type of a fight going against Terrence Bud Crawford. But Timothy Bradley, I've been on his channel for a minute. He comes out with some pretty good content, and it's always good to hear from an actual boxer who's been a part of the game and knows what's going on. So that's always a plus. And I'll probably leave a link to his channel in the description. Timothy Bradley was a guy I always liked. The whole Pacquiao thing was crappy, him receiving death threats and things like that. He didn't deserve it. He went out there and he put on a show, and I think he deserved his victory. You guys can disagree or not. Manny Pacquiao wasn't able himself to throw his same punch output. He was tired and things like that. And Bradley, he had an injury and he was still able to pull off that victory. But with that all said, I wanted to give update to my prediction. And this is from finally getting to see Canelo in some training. Before we were only supplied photo ops and things like that. And, I wasn't impressed. And there's been other channels like Bushido Boxing who noticed this as well. Like, why aren't you showing this dude working? Why am I seeing photo op type things of this dude just running on the street, not even sweating? And you got a dude on a skateboard and you got a mic and everything else. And I saw the media work out whatever this thing is that came out today, finally, and it's just like when I came out with the, KO video, what would be the best scenario for Crawford to actually knock out Canelo. I'm seeing these mistakes, man, the same mistakes I showed you guys in that video. This is the most concerning thing about it, though, because Canelo, he can look like a counterpuncher and look like you have high boxing IQ versus guys like Berlanga and, Munguia. And then you have that performance against Skull. You couldn't really cut off the ring and you're missing a lot of punches and stuff and whatever else. And you guys can claim that what's his name is running and what I could care less at this point. But one of the biggest things that works against Canelo in this fight is he's become a 1 or 2 punch fighter. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't throw combinations anymore unless you're counting that jab, 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 haymaker, just like Errol Spence used to do, square, 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 triangle. You know what I'm saying? Canelo's not who he used to be. He's just not. You can see it in this training camp. People are still expecting that he'll focus more on the weight cut, like in a week or two, but I don't see no definition. I'm seeing a lot of softness, even in his arms. Those are the things that I'm looking at when I'm finally getting to see footage. And coupled with the facts and rumors again, you can't really base it off rumors. But again, when I start to see that the rumors do kind of correspond with what I can see with my own eyes, that's when I can be like, okay, maybe there might be some truth to these stories. The San Antonio thing, Canelo himself, again, even when I watch his past fights, including Skull, I don't see the same fighter. I really don't. And again, we got to go back to this throwing only 1 punch, 2 punch thing. He may throw some. It's what I've been telling you guys. He has a Gervonta Tank Davis game plan. And, I've said this in the past. If he was a guy like Julio Cesar Chavez, a pit bull that's just going to sink his teeth into you and make sure you're dead by the end of the fight, that's just not Canelo. He's a finesse guy. You already have low output. You know what I'm saying? Again, you're not really putting your combinations and things like that together. And again, you're just trying to catch guys with a flashy shot. And that stuff, it's not going to work against a Bud Crawford. Now, in the Bivol fight, all three judges had him up 4 rounds, and he still wasn't able to secure 3 rounds off of his own merit. And going back to Tim Bradley's prediction where he thinks Canelo is going to start fast and that Crawford's going to win from behind, I agree, but I also disagree to a certain extent. I think Crawford, again, he's a guy, I'll give you an example. He had a first good 7 rounds versus Madrimov. You know what I'm saying? I think he was clearly winning, got the better of Madrimov in those rounds. It wasn't until Madrimov, his 8th round, the 9th round, and the 10th round that really kind of got people going crazy like it's a robbery and everything else. It really wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Then Crawford turned it back on, and especially in rounds, probably towards the latter half of round 10. And of course, 11 and 12, he was the guy that was actually walking Madrimov down. I felt he was the only fighter that hurt the other fighter in the fight, especially even in the 8th round when Madrimov was catching him, body heading him and things like that. He came with the combination, and after he landed like a straight left, Madrimov immediately came and tied him up, things like that. That happened a couple times in that fight. Crawford was the one, that was trying to end it on fireworks by the end of the fight. So that's all I really got to say. But the problem is that I think the weight to 154, it did kind of get to him. A guy like Floyd Mayweather knew how to measure himself. And Floyd, he would make the early first impression, make sure he bags the first 4 rounds, 4 or 5 rounds, and he'll take the middle rounds off, let his opponents expend themselves in those middle rounds. And then in the championship rounds, Floyd would mostly close those rounds, and just make it another easy night. Crawford, again, I think he did hit a point where he did kind of fatigue a little bit. And again, I think it was the 7th, 8th, 9th, and portions, not 7th, the 8th, 9th, and portions of the 10th round, and this kind of played with people's perceptions, plus, the commentary, everything else. But it was still a very good, solid win, in my opinion. And it was pretty one-sided. I still don't understand the controversy that you guys are talking about. And I could sit here and just show you evidence and proof all day, but it won't matter to majority of you. But again, I still think it's going to be just like the Madrimov fight, the pace, both guys having a lot of respect. Canelo, I don't think is really going to want to open up. And if he does start fast, as Homeboy said in the comment section, I agree with him. Whenever we see Canelo throw more output and do more things than what he likes to do, he definitely gasses by like the 4th, 5th round. Timothy Bradley, another masterful thing that he mentioned, and he told you the signs, and we've covered this in film study, especially the Bivol film study. When you see Canelo go to the ropes and rest on the ropes, that's already a bad sign. It's a red flag. That means he's definitely already flustered. He's definitely already fatigued in that regards. But as far as let's just call it the first third of the fight, rounds 1 through 4, it's going to be a chess match. It's going to be a chess game. I think Crawford is going to be the one who picks up on Canelo's limited attack. Again, Canelo doesn't really have a jab. Canelo doesn't really body people. He doesn't come in there and pressure people. He stands in front of them. And the mental aspect is the most important aspect of this fight, guys. This is what you need to understand. Typically, when you see these guys who are frazzled and they succumb to this big event, and I'm going to give Canelo a little bit of credit here, but he knows even when he's down rounds, he's never, he never panics. He always keeps his cool. That could be because he knows judging is on his side and things like that. But just like a Deontay Wilder, he knows he can give up a bunch of rounds and it's not really going to affect the outcome. And everybody knows this. And on top of these guys like a Jermell Charlo or even to a certain extent, Danny Jacobs turned up in the second half of that fight. He did win 5 rounds on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards, I believe. But, these guys like Caleb Plant, these guys, they start to get frazzled when they see that he still keeps his cool on everything that they've done. To them, this is like a fight or fight moment. And it's, you got this big event. You're against, the boogeyman who's Canelo Alvarez, And these guys all fall short, And when they're just throwing their tap jabs, they're not really landing good, successful, hard punches on Canelo, things like that. It affects them more mentally as the fight goes on, And I don't see Crawford losing the mind battle game in this fight. I really don't. Especially when, again, this guy, he's become a 1 to 2 punch, fighter where he just throws one punch, throws two punches. Yeah, unless, again, he throws that jab, 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 haymaker sequence. And while they're both sitting there trying to size each other up and things like that, and also as well, both guys have a tendency to lose the early rounds, but for Canelo, it's a whole different ball game. Crawford's actually sitting there. He's trying to learn his opponent, find his range and do all this other stuff, the timing, see how hard the opponent hits and whatever else that Crawford's doing in those types of moments. But Crawford, little by little, he is going to be able to pick up openings on Canelo. And another thing, too, is Crawford, again, he's a guy, it's going to be a battle of the feet again, in positioning. That's kind of Crawford's focus, especially in the early rounds. And again, I just don't see Canelo. Again, he's a guy, he'll sit there and he'll be patient. And again, he'll not throw too much output and things like that, just like in the Munguia fights. His pace was heightened versus Bivol, of course, because Bivol jumped on him early. Bivol's style also, he throws more volume, combinations, things like that. So Bivol had made Canelo fight a fight that Canelo did not want to fight. And that's what I'm saying. It's mental at the end of the day. So I still think Crawford is still going to have a good argument for the first few rounds. And the only type of rounds that the judges are going to try to give Canelo is when he throws hard punches, things like that. But again, it's going to be dangerous for Canelo as the fight goes on. And, when Canelo does start getting hit with clean punches, that he's not really expecting, things like that, this is what I'm saying. It's just going to continue to be a crescendo as the fight goes on. He's going to even probably be in a position where he's going to have to get more desperate. Again, we covered this in the Bivol film study, where he finally does have to expend himself more. If Crawford can hold off those offensive assaults that Canelo is going to resort to, and again, it may be the predictable jab, 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 haymaker like he did versus Bivol all night. And I've been telling you guys, he's actually trained himself to where he knows he only has to make contact. It's not necessarily if it's a scoring blow, things like that. I've also told you guys as well that Crawford at some point is going to challenge him in those sequences. If Canelo does things like open up with that left hook, while he's wide open, Crawford is going to, at some point, try to challenge that. He's going to try to land a shot. And because of the size difference, things like that, Crawford is going to be in a position where he is going to have to make Canelo respect him. So he is going to have to, again, seize those type of opportunities to get Canelo to not gain confidence in the fight. But to me, it's like a Floyd Mayweather type fight, although Terrence Crawford is not Floyd Mayweather. You guys sit here and swear up and down that Crawford is a beat-up fighter and he just gets done up. He never took as much punishment as guys like Lomachenko. And again, he doesn't take as much punishment. You guys also said this about Spence having better defense. Never took half the punishment as Errol Spence. And he doesn't get hit as much as Canelo Alvarez. I'm sorry, guys. Doesn't even come close to giving up as many rounds as Canelo Alvarez. And we all know that's for obvious reasons. But again, I'm truly confident in the fact that Crawford is working harder. He looks better. You're seeing areas where he's already cut. You see where the mass is already there. He's not going to look the same on fight night, especially when he rehydrates with the water weight. But he's still going to look good. At some point, he is going to get a little fatigued at some point. So instead of going hard during those rounds, and leaving himself open and trying to overextend himself, kind of like he did in those 7, I keep saying round 7. Round 7 was even CompuBox only gave Madrimov credit for 4 punches that round. I don't understand at all how all 3 judges gave that round to Madrimov. It was a clear Terrence Crawford round. But rounds 8, 9, 10, Crawford could have done better to focus more on defense and not try to be so always trying to land a reprisal and things on Madrimov. And Madrimov was able to counter him and land some pretty good shots during those types of rounds. But this is Canelo again. Canelo is a guy, his stamina is not the greatest in the world. And if you already have Canelo down and you're catching him and, again, hitting him with shots, and these are scoring blows, and it's pretty obvious to the viewers, and it's also obvious to the crowd, you know what I'm saying? And you are landing some nice effective blows on Canelo, he's going to get frustrated and he's going to get desperate, just like we've seen in the past. And going back to the mental again, Canelo already knows how to lose and he already knows how to give up. You know what I'm saying? During Bivol, he knew. You could see it in his body language that he was losing. You know, he's still trying to save face, and I heard later on that he claimed he was injured, and, you know, I heard he tried to make a case why he believed he still won that fight, 7-5 or whatever else, which is a load of crap. But you could just see it. It was his body language and everything else that gave him away in that fight. Bivol was landing punches all night on this dude. Yeah, Canelo was slipping and doing what his normal thing on some of those, but a lot of those were getting through, you know what I'm saying? Canelo was consistently trying to go to the ropes, things like that. Again, but I do agree that as the fight goes on, Crawford's just going to get better and better. It's going to build a crescendo again. Bradley believes it's going to be an 8-4. I've already given my prediction, again, months in advance before this fight was even announced. I told you that it could easily be an 8-4, 9-3 type scenario, but the judges, they're going to make it 7-5 no matter what, dude. They really are. Now, here's another thing that I noticed during Canelo's training footage, and we're already 16 minutes in. You know what I'm saying? I'll try to wrap this up real quick. But again, I came out with the video that showed you how this dude drops his hands, especially that left. You know, and when you're tired, when you're fatigued and things like that, how Crawford could definitely take advantage of those type of moments and land some lead rights. You know, ended on the right hand there. And we saw today, even with the Duran in his boots sparring, you know, Canelo has like a malice under his eye, especially where the, you know, where the right hand can land. That's there all night. You know what I'm saying? And Crawford, again, he should be able to spot that during the fight and do things that guys like Bivol and Floyd weren't willing to do or risk doing, although Floyd did land some lead rights and things like that, some sneaky uppercuts, especially when he had Canelo against the ropes. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is why I think it's very important for Crawford to actually go more conventional in this fight than he has in these past years. You know, try not to stay in southpaw all night, you know, and again, as the fight goes on and Canelo gets more fatigued and more frustrated, things like that, you know, his mind's not going to be able to handle it. When Crawford was doing that stuff against Amir Khan, I'm telling you, Amir Khan was so frazzled and he was so blitzed. He didn't know what was going on in that ring, and he found a way out of the fight. And Canelo, again, he's going to be stubborn. He's still going to try to look cool. He's still going to try to land his haymakers, especially after Bud lands on him. This is another opportunity Bud can seize on Canelo. You know, I showed you the clips of GGG versus Canelo 2 fight in that 10th round. That was GGG's best round in the whole saga of their fights. But, you know, where he actually managed to hurt Canelo. But you'll see that Canelo, he still tries to land even when he gets caught with good shots and tries to come with like uppercuts. This is another opportunity for Crawford to really seize and make sure that he follows up with a hard punch on Canelo when he catches him off guard. You know, this is another aspect. But Canelo, I even seen it in the comment section on some of the fights, the Ring Magazine guy. Again, you know, people in the comment sections, they're not really impressed with what they've seen. Majority of people are not really impressed with what they see. I'm not really impressed with what I've seen. Even on the bag work, you're still, you know, you're having your arms down even during bag work, dude. That's definitely a red flag, and that shows me you're not really maybe 100% focused in training camp, especially at this point with only 3 weeks to go. I think Canelo should definitely be in a far better state than what he looks like right now, guys. I really do. And I think this is just coming together for a Bud victory, just like we said. The knockout is there. If Bud, you know, again, if he seizes those opportunities, especially with Canelo being lazy with that left, you know, if he's dropping it because he's fatigued, or even after he throws and when he's retracting it back, you can follow with a counter right hand or something along those lines, or a right hook. You know, he throws his punches like this is a movie, like it's a choreographed movie, guys. He really does. And he's been able to get away with it because he's been the smaller, faster guy for the most part. And again, you have these weird stories where even guys like Skull are saying, you know, they're instructed not to really beat up Canelo. Charlo laid down in that fight, guys. You know what I'm saying? Charlo, to me, and the way Al Heyman runs his business, we covered those videos, plenty of them. You know what I'm saying? And it would not surprise me at all if they told him not to go too crazy in that fight, because Charlo, he definitely looked like he laid down. Caleb Plant's a whole nother matter. He's always been a front runner. He can give you a good 6 rounds. He ain't going to give you a full 12 rounds. I'm sorry. He's just not. We saw that in the, what's his name fight? Caleb Truax's fight. So, again, and he had to claim he was injured. But the opportunities can be there if Crawford does want to risk himself, just like he did at the end of the Madrimov fight, put his punches together. And he's going to need to go to the body as well. The body's going to be there. A guy like GGG, again, he didn't seize the body openings on Canelo. And if he did, I think we would not be having these discussions of, woe is Canelo. You know, he was robbed and all that. GGG was dumb in that fight. He just, again, he relied too much on the jab. He was too scared of getting countered and things like that as well. So he was more apprehensive. Even when he was throwing power punches, he wasn't putting his full power between it. Crawford, again, I believe has a very good chance, and I think it's just coming together. He's definitely going to win this fight. And again, Timothy Bradley, again, he'll be up on the scorecards only because the judges will give him those early rounds. Personally, though, if he is in a position like he was with Bivol, where he's jab, 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 haymaker, and he's throwing himself out, you're going to notice that Canelo was active the first 30 seconds and Bivol would let him punch himself out because he got the rest in between the rounds and get a break and things like that. So he felt a little bit more energized, and he would try to come out and, you know, try to land big shots. Again, you'll see it in the back 6, you know what I'm saying? He'll come out strong in the first 30 seconds and he would be tired again, and then that's when Bivol would go to work on him. You know, Crawford just needs to remember little things like that. He's going to tire. You know, it's not going to be a fight where it was like Charlo or where it was like Caleb Plant or even Billy Joe Sanders, where he, you know, got to wait, lose a bunch of rounds, and then later turn up in the later rounds, you know what I'm saying, after these guys are frazzled, whatever else. Crawford, again, if he's successfully landing clean shots on him and he's capitalizing on counter punching, going to the body, evading, making Canelo miss, you know, Berlanga and those type of guys, there's a reason why they're telling Crawford not to run, and they're even telling Turkey, tell Crawford not to run. You know what I'm saying? Crawford's never been a runner. I don't care what people say. Postal was like the last fight I seen him really utilize back foot the whole entire fight. You know, but he was still aggressive in that as well when he needed to. Crawford needs to just fight his fight, do what he normally does, and I think he's going to be more than fine in this fight. Another incentive to make sure that he does actually try to affect and hurt Canelo, though, especially in opportune moments, is because you don't want the judging to be a factor in this fight. But Crawford, again, he's not a guy who's going to let opportunities slip by, and he's not going to, you know, not make the most out of it. Guys like Mean Machine and guys like Madrimov, you know, those type of fights, those type of opponents have always given him the worst trouble. But a guy like Canelo, a guy who they say is supposed to be his hardest challenge, Crawford's always showed up and showed out against those fights. And I think he's going to do the same thing here. And another thing, too, is when I make these predictions, I give it a safe level. You know, I don't really fully sell into it, but Crawford always exceeds my expectations in these fights. He always does. He's able to do things that I can't even foresee or predict, even though I'll be accurate. I always exceeds my expectations. And he very well may do that again in this fight as well. You know, the fact that Canelo, again, it's going to hurt him too bad that he's a 1 to 2 punch fighter now, and he just doesn't throw his combinations and things like that. He's looking one or two punches at a time. That's really going to hurt him in this fight. And again, if Crawford can seize opportunities, counter him, it should become predictable. Even when he does get into the mode where he does jab, 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 square, 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 triangle, you know, jab, 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 haymaker. and he can counter him in those types of situations as well. Keep him always guessing. Keep him always like wondering and trying to predict what Crawford's going to do. Be more reactive in the fight instead of controlling the fight. You know, it's a battle between the minds, guys. At the end of the day, the size I don't think really plays a factor in this fight, especially seeing Canelo pretty soft and everything and how he's trading. Excuse me, I'm just babbling and my throat gets dry sometimes. But yeah, I think this is Crawford's fight to win, dude. Only if he folds up or gets old overnight, I think Canelo will win. But again, you're going to have to do more than, you know, one or two punches. And Crawford, again, he keeps guys guessing. People who sparred him told him how your mind is just constantly at work when you're fighting against a Crawford. Crawford's going to be figuring out openings, things like that. And he is going to land on Canelo. And he's going to land when Canelo doesn't expect it. Bivol was very good as well. Let's not take into account what Bivol did, but you know, Bivol did some pretty simple things to get off the ropes, things like that, and he didn't even have to really do anything crazy. That's another thing too. Canelo doesn't know how to pin people to the ropes. He really doesn't. He typically is able to capitalize on fighters who just fold mentally in the moment. Guys who actually stood their ground and fought him, even guys like Munguia, when they weren't scared of him, things like that. You know, they had plenty of success in the fight. And they definitely had more success, you know, like Munguia, for example, landing 170 punches on Canelo. They definitely had more success on guys like Munguia, you know. Again, Madrimov. Madrimov, again, was more of a puzzle, more of a moving puzzle than what Canelo is going to present. Canelo, he's going to do his little footwork, step forward, and, you know, be in high guard and things. Crawford, you're giving him too much of an opportunity to observe you, study you, and then he's going to craft a punch when you do open up with your own offense. Because, again, you don't really have a jab and things like that. You want to land power punches, you know, except for when you're in that jab, 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 haymaker sequence. But Crawford's going to be able to observe when you open up, especially when you throw the left hook, things like that. You're going to have to be more active and more of a bully in that fight. And this is another thing that people need to understand. People, even bigger fighters don't do this versus Crawford for a reason, because they respect his counterpunching. It's just like when GGG fought Canelo, you know what I'm saying? They respect his counterpunching and they respect his punch. And I don't think it's going to be any different in this fight. Crawford's training hard like a madman. It's good that boots came, but you got mouses underneath your eyes. That means you're getting caught with right hands, of course. That right hand's there. I see how you're hitting the bag. I see how you're doing the pad work. Again, sloppy. You're letting that left hand down too much. You know what I'm saying? That means you're not really 100% focused, and he doesn't look like where he needs to be. You know what I'm saying? He looked far better at this time in a lot of other fights. He looked more cut up and things like that, even before he needed to cut weight and things like that. Yeah, I think Bradley's prediction is pretty accurate. Except for the beginning. On the judges' scorecard, sure, they'll probably have Canelo up. But again, you know, I think even Crawford's going to be able to have some pretty good moments in the early rounds when he's starting to test out what punches he can get away with on Canelo, who's just going to be there in high guard. And again, does things like tries to open up with the left hook or whatever else he tries to do. Crawford, he doesn't have to worry about movement like a skull. You know, you're only going to need to evade when Canelo attacks you. You know, play it smart, you know, let Canelo kind of expend himself in the opening rounds, but, you know, don't play it too safe. You know, when you play chess, you find out oftentimes when you play too defensive, later on in the game, you'll be in a position where you can't really make any moves. You know, you got to know when to shoot, to turn on the offense, and when to use the defense. And I think the early rounds, being close to Canelo and getting him to expend himself, making sure you're landing body punches and things like that, it's going to work out for you in the end of the fight. I have a similar prediction to Tim Bradley. Again, it's been on my channel months in advance. But again, the more and more I'm seeing this fight and just what I'm hearing and just what I'm seeing, again, I think Crawford can also do what hasn't been done, which is another thing Crawford is good at. He's good at taking people's cherries on a lot of things, whether that's knocking them down for the first time or even knocking them out. And I'm even starting to like that right now. And I'm thinking I'm going to sprinkle some money on that KO. You know what I'm saying? $100, you know, it's a plus 850. So what am I going to lose betting $100? You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I think I definitely will have money on a decision. And I think I'll definitely sprinkle some money on that KO as well, just to have it covered. Because, again, it's a plus 850, plus 900 around that for most betting sites. But I will talk to you guys later. Bye.